Have you ever felt the mighty hand of God separating you from everything familiar, as if you were being drawn into a silent, sacred space where the noise of the world fades away? This experience can feel like a mystery, a riddle that leaves you with more questions than answers. Yet, what if I told you that this separation is not a punishment, but the greatest gift you could ever receive? What if this solitude is a divine summons, an invitation to step into an extraordinary transformation that only a few are privileged to experience? For the chosen, isolation is not an accident, but a calling, a divine call to retreat from the distractions of the world and enter into God's secret chamber, where mysteries are revealed, spiritual gifts are activated, and destinies are forged. This is a place where the ordinary is left behind, and the extraordinary begins to unfold. So stay with me until the end of this journey, because what you are about to discover could forever change the way you perceive your spiritual path. Together, we will explore why God isolates His chosen ones and how this isolation is the prelude to the greatest elevation of their lives. Brace yourself, for the revelations you are about to receive will illuminate your soul and transform your journey. Before we dive deeper, if you are new to our channel, be sure to subscribe to join our community of chosen ones. Together, we will walk this path of enlightenment, supporting each other as we discover the secrets of our divine calling. First, let us clarify a common misconception that many of us have: confusing isolation with loneliness. These two concepts, although seemingly similar, could not be more distinct. Loneliness is often depicted as a feeling of emptiness, a void left by the absence of connection or companionship. It is that ache in the heart when we feel forgotten or unseen, a sense of abandonment that can creep in even when surrounded by people. Loneliness makes us feel like we are lost in a crowded room, like a small boat adrift in a vast, unending ocean. Isolation, however, when viewed through the lens of divine purpose, is something entirely different. For the chosen, isolation is a blessing in disguise, a sacred phase of preparation and renewal. God does not lead us into isolation to make us suffer. He separates us to transform us. Think of it like a master painter who requires silence and concentration to create a masterpiece. The isolation of the chosen is a special condition, a holy space where God sets the stage for something great. Imagine being in the middle of a noisy party, feeling the suffocating weight of loneliness despite being surrounded by people. This is because loneliness is a state of mind and heart, a feeling of disconnection that has nothing to do with the physical presence of others. Now contrast this with divine isolation, a golden opportunity, an invitation into a personal sanctuary where you and God can connect on a deeper, more meaningful level. It's not about how many people are around you, but about how deeply you connect with your inner self and the divine. God does not place a chosen one in isolation to keep them away. He does it to bring them closer to His truth and His will. Isolation is not synonymous with rejection. It is synonymous with preparation. God often chooses to isolate those who have a special calling because He knows that to fulfill a great purpose, it is necessary to first cultivate introspection and self-understanding. It is in this silent space that the chosen begin to understand the true power that resides within them. To many, isolation feels like walking through a barren desert, an endless stretch of emptiness where each step is a struggle. Yet for the chosen, isolation is less like a desert and more like a secret garden where new seeds of purpose are planted and begin to germinate. Those who experience divine isolation understand that it is a period to find themselves, to reflect on their mission, and to prepare for something greater. Have you ever noticed that the greatest revelations often come in moments of silence? It is when the voices of the world are quieted that God's voice becomes the clearest. In this sense, isolation is not a punishment, but a sacred pause, a divine interval where the greatest transformations occur. It is in this silence that you discover who you really are and what you are truly called to do. The difference between isolation and loneliness also manifests itself in the way you choose to view your situation. You can choose to see isolation as a prison or as a refuge. It can be a time of agony or a time of growth. For the chosen, This perspective is crucial. What appears to be a withdrawal from the world is actually an invitation to delve deeper into yourself and into God. It's a chance to let go of distractions and focus on what really matters. And that's when you discover the true power of isolation. When the chosen embrace isolation as an opportunity, they begin to realize how valuable this time apart is. It is in this state of isolation that great ideas are born, that faith is strengthened, and that courage is cultivated. It is a time of deep learning and spiritual renewal. God, in His infinite wisdom, knows that some lessons can only be learned in silence, where the mind and spirit are free to explore the mysteries of the divine calling. It is in this sacred space that the chosen find a peace that transcends all understanding, the certainty that they are exactly where they need to be. When God decides to isolate one of His chosen, He does so with a clear and intentional purpose, to prepare that person for a greater destiny. Isolation is like a sculptor's secret chamber, where each chisel stroke is delivered with precision and care to create a masterpiece. God knows that to fulfill a great mission, the chosen need to be shaped and strengthened both in character and spirit. He takes them away from the noise of the world so they can hear His voice and understand the calling that is in their hearts. The preparation that takes place in isolation is a delicate and profound process, designed to bring out the best in those who have been chosen to serve a greater purpose. Imagine isolation as a time of intensive training, where the chosen are taught how to deal with the battles that lie ahead. Just like David, who was anointed at a young age but had to spend years tending sheep before becoming king, isolation is a time of learning and growth. During this time, God works to develop specific skills and strengthen the faith of those He has chosen. It is a time to acquire wisdom, patience, and resilience so that when the time is right, the chosen are ready to take on their assigned role. The chosen who undergo isolation are like warriors in training, each with a unique purpose and mission to accomplish. God separates them so they can focus on His teachings and develop a deeper connection with Him. During isolation, the character of the chosen is refined, and their spiritual gifts are revealed. It is a period of introspection and self-discovery, where they learn to trust God completely and follow His guidance. During isolation, the chosen often face trials and tribulations that seem overwhelming, but it is in these moments of challenge that true strength and faith are forged. God uses isolation to test and strengthen the chosen so that they can overcome their own limitations and emerge stronger and more prepared. Every obstacle faced, every challenge overcome, is a valuable lesson that prepares the chosen for what is to come. God wastes no experience. Each is used to shape and prepare His chosen for the role He has planned for them. The chosen must understand that isolation is not a time of idleness, but of active preparation. It is a time to seek God fervently, to delve into the Scriptures, and to strengthen faith. It is a time to pray, reflect, and prepare for the spiritual battles that will inevitably arise. Just as a soldier prepares for war through rigorous training, the chosen use isolation to prepare for the mission God has placed before them. This is the time to equip yourself with spiritual armor and prepare for the fight. In isolation, the chosen also learn the importance of obedience and submission to God's will. They are taught to set aside their own desires and trust the divine plan. This is a crucial lesson, as preparing for God's mission requires complete surrender to Him. Isolation is a time to strip away personal ambitions and completely align ourselves with God's will. The chosen learn that true greatness comes from obedience and loyalty to God. When God chooses to isolate one of His chosen, He is not only preparing them but also equipping them for the mission that awaits them. Training goes beyond simple preparation. It is a profound strengthening, an infusion of spiritual abilities and strengths that make the chosen able to face any challenge. It is in the silence of isolation that the chosen find the space to experience and develop these gifts. God equips them with the tools they need to not only survive but to thrive in spiritual battles. This is the time when you, as the chosen one, begin to see real changes in your being. a transformation that goes from the inside out. In isolation, God empowers His chosen, giving them the vision to see beyond their circumstances and the strength to stand up against the giants they will encounter along the way. Imagine David, who did not face Goliath by chance. He had been trained in the fields, tending sheep, facing lions and bears. Each of these experiences was a training opportunity, preparing him for the greater challenge. Likewise, today's chosen face their own struggles, whether visible or internal. But it is through these battles that God empowers them, transforming weaknesses into strengths and doubts into unshakable faith. Empowerment in isolation also means being shaped by God's hands, allowing Him to work in areas that need strengthening. God does not allow the chosen to be thrown into battle without first enabling them to win. He separates them not to leave them defenseless, but to equip them with wisdom, discernment, and spiritual power. When God isolates one of His chosen, it is not just to prepare or empower them, but to elevate them to a new level of existence and purpose. Elevation is a profound process where the soul is called to a higher plane, a place where the gifts and abilities that were developed in isolation begin to shine with intensity. This is not an elevation of social status or human recognition, but a spiritual elevation where the chosen one aligns with God's designs and becomes a powerful channel of His will on earth. Isolation is, therefore, the training ground for this elevation, a time in which God works intensely to prepare the chosen one for this new level of performance. Imagine that you are climbing a mountain. Isolation is like this climb, difficult and challenging, but each step takes you closer to the top. When you finally get there, you realize that the view is magnificent, that everything you suffered and endured was worth it. The elevation of the chosen is like this. God does not elevate the chosen just to glorify them. He does so they can accomplish greater missions and impact more lives. Elevation is a responsibility, a calling to serve in a higher capacity. When you understand this, you begin to see isolation not as a withdrawal, but as a stepping stone to something greater. Every moment of reflection, every challenge faced in isolation, is a preparation for the elevation that is to come. Understanding and embracing the purpose of isolation is a profound act of faith and surrender. When we resist isolation, when we view it as an unnecessary hardship or a punishment rather than a divine invitation, we close ourselves off from the growth and transformation that God intends for us. Resistance often stems from fear, discomfort, or a lack of understanding. It is natural to feel uneasy when everything familiar is stripped away, and we are left alone with our thoughts, feelings, and God. However, it is in these moments of discomfort that the most significant growth can occur. Resistance to isolation is not just a reluctance to be alone. It is a reluctance to confront the deeper aspects of ourselves that God is trying to address. It is an avoidance of the soul-searching, the self-examination, and the spiritual refining that isolation brings. When we resist this process, we are essentially saying that we are not ready to grow, not ready to change, and not ready to step into the fullness of our divine calling. We may find ourselves stuck in a cycle of frustration, continually asking why we are not moving forward, why our prayers seem unanswered, or why we feel disconnected from our purpose. However, when we surrender to isolation, when we accept it as a necessary part of our spiritual journey, we open ourselves to a deeper understanding of God's will and our own potential. Acceptance is a powerful act of trust. It means believing that God knows what is best for us, even when we cannot see the path ahead. It is trusting that the isolation we are experiencing is not meant to harm us, but to heal us, to prepare us, and to elevate us to a new level of spiritual awareness and strength. During isolation, the chosen begin to desire different things, to seek what truly matters and to leave behind everything that diverged them from their true calling. Imagine a river that needs to be diverted from its normal course to irrigate new, fertile land. God does this with the chosen, redirecting their desires to something higher, more spiritual. It is common that before isolation, many of us find ourselves drawn to the fleeting pleasures and distractions of the world. Our days are filled with pursuits that offer temporary satisfaction, whether it's the pursuit of material wealth, social status, or personal comfort. These desires, while seemingly harmless, often lead us away from our true purpose and create a false sense of fulfillment. They keep us anchored to the surface of life, preventing us from diving deeper into the spiritual ocean that God invites us to explore. In this state, our hearts and minds are cluttered with distractions. We might find ourselves chasing after the next promotion, the next purchase, or the next thrill, thinking that these will bring us lasting happiness. However, these superficial desires often leave us feeling empty and unfulfilled, constantly searching for the next thing to fill the void. Our spirits become restless, yearning for something more substantial, something eternal. But when God leads us into a period of isolation, He begins to strip away these superficial desires. This process may feel uncomfortable at first, as we are forced to confront the emptiness of the things we once valued. We may find ourselves in a place where the usual sources of comfort and pleasure no longer satisfy. It is in this sacred space that God begins His transformative work, gently turning our focus away from the temporary and toward the eternal. This transformation is akin to a spiritual awakening. Our eyes are opened to the emptiness of worldly pursuits, and we begin to see the beauty and value of a life lived in alignment with God's will. Our priorities shift. We no longer seek fulfillment in external achievements or possessions. Instead, we seek a closer relationship with the divine. Our prayers become more earnest, our worship more heartfelt, and our desire to serve others more genuine. God places within us a thirst that cannot be quenched by anything the world offers. It is a thirst for His wisdom, His guidance, and His love. This thirst drives us to seek Him more passionately, to spend more time in His presence, and to immerse ourselves in His Word. It compels us to look beyond our own needs and desires and to see the bigger picture, the divine plan that God is unfolding in our lives and in the world around us. As the chosen go through these moments of empowerment, they begin to see significant changes in their lives. Old habits and thought patterns are left behind, giving way to new ways of seeing the world and interacting with it. God empowers the chosen to be more than mere survivors. He prepares them to be overcomers, to be leaders in their communities, to be living examples of His grace and power. This empowerment is a testimony to what God can do when someone completely surrenders to His purpose. Divine empowerment is not a sudden or fleeting experience. It is a profound, ongoing process that reshapes every aspect of a chosen one's life. When God empowers His chosen, He does more than just give them strength to endure. He grants them a new vision, a vision that allows them to see beyond their current circumstances, beyond their past limitations, and into the vast potential that God has placed within them. This new vision is transformative. It enables the chosen to look at their lives, their challenges, and their opportunities from a higher perspective, seeing them through the lens of God's purpose and power. As the chosen embrace this divine empowerment, they begin to experience a renewal of the mind and spirit. Old habits that once seemed impossible to break suddenly lose their grip. Destructive thought patterns, born out of fear, insecurity, or past trauma, begin to dissolve. In their place, a new mindset takes root, a mindset grounded in faith, hope, and divine confidence. The chosen start to see themselves not as victims of their circumstances, but as victors, equipped and empowered by God to rise above any challenge. The process of empowerment in isolation is also about equipping the chosen with the necessary tools for their divine mission. God bestows upon them spiritual gifts, wisdom, discernment, courage, and faith that are essential for navigating the path He has set before them. Wisdom enables them to make sound decisions. Discernment allows them to see beyond the surface and perceive deeper truths, and courage gives them the strength to stand firm in their convictions, even when faced with opposition. These gifts are not just theoretical concepts. but practical tools that the chosen learn to wield effectively through experience and guidance from the Holy Spirit. Divine elevation is one of the most transformative aspects of the spiritual journey. It is a process that transcends the physical and the mundane, reaching into the very essence of who we are. When God isolates His chosen, He is not merely putting them through a series of tests or trials. Instead, He is creating a sacred space for profound inner transformation. This period of isolation is akin to a spiritual crucible where the soul is purified, refined, and prepared for a greater destiny. Elevation is not about gaining worldly acclaim or material success. It is a spiritual ascent, a rise to a higher state of consciousness and being where the chosen are more closely aligned with the heart and mind of God. It is in this elevated state that they become more attuned to divine wisdom, more receptive to spiritual insights, and more capable of carrying out God's purpose on earth. This spiritual elevation signifies a deep inner change where the soul, once weighed down by earthly concerns, begins to soar in the limitless possibilities of divine purpose. As the chosen are elevated, their gifts and abilities, which have been honed in the quiet solitude of isolation, begin to shine with unparalleled clarity and power. They start to recognize that their talents are not just for personal fulfillment, but are meant to be used as instruments of God's will. These gifts, whether it be healing, teaching, prophecy, or leadership, take on new dimensions and are infused with divine authority. The chosen understand that they are not just talented individuals, but vessels through which God's grace, wisdom, and power flow to touch and transform the world. As you reflect on everything we've shared today, remember, isolation is not an end, but the beginning of something great for the chosen. It is preparation for purpose, empowerment for battle, and elevation to a new level of existence. Understanding and accepting isolation as part of the divine plan is essential so that the chosen can reap all the benefits of this process. Many struggle with isolation, seeing it as a form of rejection or punishment. However, the chosen need to understand that isolation is actually a powerful tool in the hands of God. It is a period designed to shape you, strengthen you, and prepare you for the challenges and blessings to come. Isolation is often misunderstood because it feels uncomfortable, even painful. When we are separated from the familiar comforts of our lives, our routines, relationships, and social circles, it is easy to feel abandoned or forgotten. Many perceive isolation as a punishment or a sign that they are not favored by God. But this perspective misses the deeper divine purpose behind isolation. In reality, God uses isolation not to distance Himself from us, but to draw us closer to Him, to mold us in His image, and to prepare us for a higher calling. This shift in perspective allows the chosen to embrace isolation with faith and gratitude, recognizing it as an opportunity to deepen their relationship with God and to develop a more profound understanding of His will. It is during this time that we are invited to silence the noise of the world and tune into the still, small voice of the Holy Spirit. In the quiet of isolation, we can hear God's whispers more clearly, feel His presence more intimately, and understand His guidance more profoundly. Isolation is not a time of idleness, but of active preparation. It is a time to seek God fervently, to delve into the Scriptures, and to strengthen faith. It is a time to pray, reflect, and prepare for the spiritual battles that will inevitably arise. Just as a soldier prepares for war through rigorous training, the chosen use isolation to prepare for the mission God has placed before them. This is the time to equip yourself with spiritual armor and prepare for the fight. As you continue on your spiritual journey, remember that God is always with you, guiding you, supporting you, and filling you with His strength. You are not alone in this journey. You are part of a community of chosen ones who are all walking the path of enlightenment together. So embrace your period of isolation as a divine gift, a sacred opportunity to grow closer to God, and a chance to prepare for the great destiny that awaits you. If you feel alone or misunderstood as a chosen one, consider joining our community. Together, we can support and uplift each other, sharing our experiences and learning from one another. Subscribe to our channel, engage with us in the comments, and let us walk this path of enlightenment together. Remember, you are a chosen one, destined to shine in a world of darkness. Your journey is just beginning, and the best is yet to come. Until next time, stay blessed and keep shining. Your isolation is not the end. It is the beginning of your greatest elevation.